On this edition of Gameball NFL Endzone, the 2019 NFL Draft is in the books. We're going to talk about that and much more. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. Gameball NFL Endzone, and it begins now. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Gameball NFL Endzone, where the football season never ends. It's your boy, Michael Riley.
I'm Luke Hartnett.
Marcus couldn't be here with us today, but we got him on lock. We got your back, bro. He'll be on the next podcast episode. So we're going to go to the AFC and NFC East 2019 NFL Draft recap. But first, we're going to start with the AFC East Conference, and we're going to go through the Buffalo Bills draft with the number 1 pick overall, number 9, Ed Oliver out of Houston. Second round pick, Cordy Ford, Oklahoma offensive tackle. Third round, Devin Singletary out of Florida Atlantic. Third round, Dawson Knox out of Ole Miss, tight end. Fifth round, Vashawn Joseph, outside linebacker, Florida. Sixth round, Jaquan Johnson, Miami safety. Seventh round pick, Daryl Johnson, outside linebacker, North Carolina AT. And with their last 7th round pick, Tommy Sweeney, tight end out of Boston College. Luke, you gave him a B grade. Explain your grade.
It's basically at the top of the draft there. Ed Oliver, he's a top 5 talent first. So for him to slide down to, I believe, number 8, number 9, wherever the Bills were at there, was a great gift for them. And Cody Ford, he's got a good 8 to 10 to 12 year career in the NFL if everything plays out well for him. So they got great value at the top.
I'm going to go with a B minus. The Ed Oliver makes perfect sense for him. And our mock draft, I had another player going to that team, but Ed Oliver, the best prospect available, you got to take him. I mean, he was one of those good, talented players. I think at Houston was misused in defensive schemes all day. He could play the 3 technique in a 3-4 or a true defensive end, the 4-3 defense. Wherever scheme you can use him, he could dominate there. A lot of people kind of compare him to Aaron Donald, but not as good a version as Aaron Donald. But if the Bills can use him right and all that, they'll get the best out of him. So for right now, I'll give him a B minus because of that. And you got a good tight end in the 3rd round, Knox. In my opinion, he's a sleeper, but if you develop him right, he'll be good. And the running back, because the age of LaShawn McCoy, he's getting up there, so you have to go with him, and he's a good steal out there. And Cody Ford, like you were saying, he could play the 10 to 15 years in the league if used properly. It just depends on if he's a guard or he could play the right tackle spot. So I give him a B minus on paper, but we'll have to see how it goes throughout the season. All right. Next team we're going to talk about is Miami Dolphins with the 1st pick overall, Christian Wilkins. 3rd round, Michael Dieter, offensive guard out of Wisconsin. 5th round, Andrew Van Ginkel, outside linebacker, Wisconsin. Isaiah Prince, offensive tackle, Ohio State. Chandler Cox, fullback out of Auburn. And Myles Gaskin, your favorite player, running back out of Washington. You gave them a C. Explain that.
That was a steal for Myles Gaskin there, although a lot of those 7th rounders wound up, at least initially, making less money than undrafted free agents do. More on that in the summer episode, maybe. But this draft could actually get moved up to maybe a B, and based off of the performance of Josh Rosen, an A, just because you don't have it on the sheet there, but Josh Rosen, he was theoretically a second-round pick.
Yeah.
Number 62 for the Miami Dolphins there. So if he plays and plays well, you got to give him a B. But for the time being, they had to get Christian Wilkins at the number 13 spot for him.
Oh, you can't pass him up.
Can't pass up Sewell like that. Nah, so he'll have a chance to shine in South Beach there. And again, Rosen in the second round for a second round draft pick. And I think Gaskin, he could. They're not going to have a lot of size at the running back position, but him and Kenyon Drake could be. You could do a lot of. I think Andy Reid would like you give an offensive mind like Andy Reid. You give him Gaskin and Drake at the same time, and there's just all sorts of neat and nifty things they'd be able to do. So. On the edge, underneath in the passing game, screen passes, wheel routes, so on and so forth. So there's a lot to work with.
I gave him a C minus due to the fact maybe there's a lack of offensive lineman production there due to last season. Running the ball was kind of their downfall as well as protecting the quarterback at times. But Christian Wilkins, I give that pick an A. But despite the C minus, but that pick is an A. You cannot pass up on this kid. I'm like, he fell to the 13th pick overall. I was like, wow. I figured he'll be top 5, maybe top 10. And so Christian Wilkins, that dude is a workhorse machine. You saw what he did throughout his career at Clemson, and especially when they got a crack at Alabama again from losing last year in the semifinals of the 14 playoff. So all three of them made a commitment that we're going to come back and we're going to win the national championship. And against Alabama, they could not stop this dude. He was everywhere out of the quarterback, stopping the run. If he used properly by a new head coach, Brian Flores, for linebacker coach for the Patriots, he could be a dominant player. And they did upgrade to offensive lineman Michael Dieter, the offensive guard out of Wisconsin. I feel like if they would have added another tackle on that side, it would have helped do a little bit better, maybe get a little more upgrade. But we'll have to see. And Josh Rosen, former top 10 pick of 2018 NFL draft, and you only gave up a second round pick. You can't pass that up. So they found a quarterback as long as he can play and be a leader and not worry about what all the stuff is going around and just be himself. There's some say that he did kind of handle it wrong, unfollowing him on Instagram or Twitter, something like that, with the Steve Smith rant, as everybody saw. So if he could come in, just ball out and do his thing, and the draft grade would be a little bit up, but for right now, I gave him a C minus. And Myles Gaskin, a lot of him was projected to go the 3rd or 4th round, but he fell in the 7th round. I think he can work in on some special teams, maybe some plays here and there, but if he works his butt off, he might be a potential second or third down situation, maybe a starting roto. So we'll only know, time will tell, but I do like that pick for the Dolphins. All right, the New York Football Jets with the number 1 pick, Quentin Williams, defensive tackle at Alabama. The 3rd pick overall, Ja'Kai Polite, defensive end out of Florida. 3rd round pick, Chuma Edoga, offensive tackle, USC. Trayvon Westco, tight end out of West Virginia, 4th round. Blake Cashman, inside linebacker, 5th round pick out of Minnesota. And Blesson Austin, cornerback for Rutgers, and you gave them a B.
Interesting thing about the Jets, this is the second draft in a row they only had 6 picks, so they've only had 12 picks the last 2 drafts combined. But I got him getting a B just because I think Quentin Williams is at that number 3 spot. He is, the Cardinals drafted for need, for lack of a better term. And, the 49ers reluctant on Bosa, making him an obvious number 2 pick. But I'm actually thinking, hindsight, in 2020, when we look back, Quentin Williams may have been probably should have been the number 1 or 2 pick. Point I'm trying to make, he was the best of when it comes to just pure football semantics, he was the best available in this year's draft.
I gave them a C minus, but the first pick, Quentin Williams, I'll give that an A. But the rest of it could have been better. I mean, Polite was there with the third round pick. You couldn't pass him up, but you could have got a lot better at the offensive line spot because you got to protect your future quarterback and Sam Darnold, especially at the guard position where he was getting beat up last year. I mean, they got some free agent player on the guard spot. I feel like if you build more on that offensive line and keep him upright in the pocket, it would have made a lot of difference. And despite they not have that many picks because they traded most to the Colts when they made that trade for last year for Sam Darnold, that kind of hurt them a little bit. So despite all that, except for Quentin Williams, I got to go with a C minus. All right, last team in the AFC East, the defending Super Bowl champs, 6-time New England Patriots. With the first pick overall, N'Keal Harry, wide receiver out of Arizona State. Jaquan Williams, second-round pick, cornerback out of Vanderbilt. And my favorite player, Chase Winovich, defensive end, third round of Michigan. Running back, Damon Harris, third-round pick out of Alabama. Third-round offensive tackle, Yanni, I can't say his last name, but he's an offensive tackle out of West Virginia, third round. Fourth-round offensive lineman, Halati Fordholt, offensive guard out of Arkansas. The fourth-round pick, Jarrett Stidham, quarterback out of Auburn. Fifth-round pick, Byron Cowart, defensive tackle out of Maryland. Sixth round, a punter, Jake Bailey, Stanford, with the last pick in the seventh round, Ken Webster out of Ole Miss, and you gave them an A.
It's the Patriots. They could have drafted everybody out of the CFL. I'd still give him an A. Belichick knows what he's doing.
That's true, though.
I mean, they really do. But no, I actually had to take a Will Greer with that number 32 pick. Cause I had a feeling that they would try to get some basically who's their backup, Brian Hoyer.
Yeah,
probably a little bit better insurance policy at backup there. And they didn't take Greer at number 32. They actually waited to the fourth round to get Stidham, who was. Truth be told, I kind of forgot Stidham was in the draft this year. I didn't know he was leaving Auburn after this year. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's like I knew about it, but I kind of forgot about it. So I actually heard that he was drafted by the Patriots. And it's like, oh yeah, he's left Auburn. But so good pick there. They're going to probably do something over the summer to get the booster up the tight end. I think their best tight end available right now is probably Safarian Jenkins.
Yeah.
So would have liked to see them address that a little bit better, but. Truth be told, I think Belichick knows you can't just go draft the tight end, have him go and replace Gronk. So, like I said, names good call on Winovich. He's a very Patriot pick. I figured they would have got Hunter Renfrow to Clemson too, just because he fits the whole Patriot white receiver profile, right? So I guess he went to the Raiders in one of the later rounds or mid rounds, I guess. But Patriots get an A just based off. You win 6 rings in 17, 18 years or whatever it's been. You get an A.
I give him an A plus. It's not because I'm a biased Patriot fan and all that, but it's just because, like you were saying, Belichick knows what he's doing, and they have to address the receiver spot. N'Keal Harry, the second best receiver in this draft, and you let the Patriots get him? Are you kidding me? I mean, yeah, he didn't have the fastest 40 time. A lot of great receivers didn't have the fastest 40 time. Like, for instance, Jerry Rice, who ran a 4.6, is the all-time NFL touchdown king, receiver king, and receptions king. And my second favorite all-time receiver is Michael Irvin. He didn't have a fast 40 time, but on the field spring, he was open. So field speed versus track speed. Field speed always dominates track speed, and he's a physical specimen. I mean, he will go up and get the ball. He can run actual good routes. He can play inside and outside. He's a versatile receiver, A lot of people compare him to Des Bryant. And same thing can be said about Jawan Williams, the big 6'4" corner out of Vanderbilt. He kind of reminds me of Richard Sherman. Yeah, he may not have the fastest 40 time, but with a 6'4" and a 6'7", 6'8" wingspan, long arms, when I put my hands on you and get physical with you, you're not running a 4.3 or 4.4, 4.2, whatever. You're running the same speed I'm running. And one of my favorite picks in the draft, Jace Winovich, he is a Patriot type of player. He is a workhorse. He has the motor and he gets it done. He can play well, gets to run. He can play rush the quarterback well and all that. And Damon Harris, a running back from Alabama, who I really like. It just tells me that Belichick is like, we're going to be all about ground and pound and protect Tom Brady more and eat up the clock, because you got Sony Michel, who had a successful rookie season despite the injuries, and you add Harris on top of that with Sony Michel, 1-2 punch. You got a Georgia Bulldog and a Crimson Tide of Alabama going together. And Jarrett Stidham, I say that's a steal because he wasn't used right at Baylor or at Auburn, in my opinion. The offensive philosophy just didn't fit him with that talent. But give him, I say, about 2-3 years develop with Belichick and offensive mind, Josh McDaniels. Oh, man. And the other picks is just more depth and special teams, and traded up for a punter who led the nation in punts. So, overall, Belichick knows what he's doing.
They obviously have a very specific role for N'Keal Harry there, because I don't know that he was absolutely the best, remaining receiver at that. But you think of some of the receivers that went afterwards. DK Metcalf went second round to the Seahawks. Hakeem Butler, I believe, at Iowa State went one of the third or fourth round. These guys, who I think, are better pure football players than Harry, which is why I say I think they obviously have a very design-specific role for him to come in there. I'm also kind of surprised they took him over the kid's name that slipped me out of Georgia that the Chiefs took, though.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The one who's supposed to quote-unquote replace Tyreek Hill. My apologies for forgetting the kid's name at the moment, but y'all know who I'm talking about. I think these are, I think, better receivers in the grand scheme of things, so they have a very, very niche role they want Harry to play. And one more thing about Stidham is I don't believe he'll be the heir apparent to Brady. What I think Belichick will do is he'll put him in preseason games, give him a chance to shine. You might see some Patriot games where they pull Brady with 9 times out of 10 a large lead, as opposed to either way, get Brady out of harm's way when the game's no longer in doubt.
Yeah.
Put Stidham in, let him shine in some regular season games, and then do what he did with Garoppolo and Matt Castle as well. Trade him, get some picks, keep the beat going.
And I think they'll use N'Keal Harry to the advantage, and the reason why I say the other wide receiver is talented, but like 20 yards, 40 yards plus, he was the nation's leading reception, and some of the receivers in the other conferences don't run actual true route trees like you don't see anymore, and he ran like every route tree, and that's what Belichick loves, route running receivers who runs the route trees. And more to Jawan Williams, the cornerback from Vanderbilt, he's a big corner. He can play against the tight ends, or he could play some of the slot. He's very versatile defensive backs, but more likely he'll be up against bigger receivers. And speaking of big name tight ends and receivers, the Patriots played the Chiefs this year at Arrowhead, so he'll be more on Travis Kelce, and you have other players to do their jobs. It gives Belichick more options to game plan against opposing offenses. That's what I like about it. And 6'4" with a 6'7", 6'8" wingspan compared to Richard Sherman, I think they got a steal. And that will do it for the AFC East draft recap. And when we come back, we're going to go over the NFC East draft recap. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Be back on Gameball NFL Endzone, where the football season never ends. What's
happening,
everyone? Welcome back to Gameball NFL Endzone when the football season never ends. We're going to go to the NFC East draft recap. We're going to start off with the Dallas Cowboys second round pick, Tristan Hill, USC defensive tackle. Third round pick, Connor McGovern, offensive guard out of Penn State. Tony Pollard, running back out of Memphis, fourth round. Michael Jackson, not the Michael Jackson, the singer, but the Michael Jackson, the football player out of Miami, cornerback. Joe Jackson, defensive end out of Miami, fifth round, both of them fifth rounds. Sixth round pick, Donovan Wilson, safety out of Texas A&M. Seventh round pick, Mike Weber, running back out of Ohio State, seventh round pick. Jalen Jelks, defensive end out of Oregon. You gave them a C minus. Not C, not that was me, but you gave them a regular C.
I gave him a solid C. Yeah. Could bump it up to a B if you include Amari Cooper as a first-round pick, similar to what we discussed with the Dolphins and Rosen. So you don't see his name on there because it wasn't technically a draft pick, but they just surrender a first-rounder for him. So throwing Amari Cooper in there makes that draft looks a lot heftier, if you will. Cowboys had an obvious angle here. They didn't make a splash. That's not by accident. They just went for depth, went for insurance, tried to get I don't think they really got too much better through the draft. But they like I said, they got some guys who are going to come into camp, compete for spots, increase competition. Maybe someone will shine down the road, maybe not. They just played it. They just straddled the line, if you will, of like the old saying goes, you either play to win or play not to lose. They kind of drafted not to lose.
Well, I gave him a C minus. I feel like outside of Amari Cooper, they could have got a bigger physical receiver in the second round. The Butler kid, the receiver out of Iowa State, he was still there. Or Metcalf, he was still there. So I feel like they could have dressed the receiver outside of Amari Cooper to give Dak Prescott more weapons. Defensive tackle, he's pretty good, but I would have went with the receiver side of things and more depth at the offensive line and running back maybe to go with the one punch with Ezekiel Elliott. You had more depth at defensive line because one of their players is suspended indefinitely. Irving got suspended for his situation. And he also wanted to have more depth, like he was saying, and as well as safety and corner, maybe some special teams overall. They didn't really have a draft that stand out, so I just gave him a C minus. All right, on to the New York Football Jets, and boy, their draft was interesting. Daniel Jones with the first pick at number 6 out of Duke. Their other first-round pick is Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle out of Clemson. They traded back up the first round to get a cornerback, DeAndre Baker from Georgia. With the third-round pick, O'Shane Eximes, how you say his name, defensive end out Old Domain. Julian Love, fourth-round pick, cornerback out of Notre Dame. Ryan Connolly, inside linebacker, fifth-round pick at Wisconsin. Darius Slayton, wide receiver out of Auburn, sixth round. Corey Ballantyne, hopefully you get better, sixth-round pick out of Washburn, cornerback. George Afoso Ajayi, offensive guard, Kentucky. Chris Slayton, defensive tackle, seventh-round pick out of Syracuse. And you gave the Giants a B.
Oh, yeah, I did give him a B. I like the Dexter Lawrence pick there. They was able to get number 17. And there's been a lot of quote-unquote controversy over the quarterback out of Duke at number 6 there. I mean, I had the Giants taking Drew Lock at number 6, who fell to the second round. And then I had the Broncos taking, Jones at the number 10 spot. So, I mean, for a guy who's not NFL ready, it makes sense to a degree to draft him when you know he's not going to be really competing to start day one for you. It's still Eli's job for as long as he's there. So I kind of, well, I don't necessarily agree with the pick. I agree with the angle that they were going for there. And Dexter Lawrence again, he'll provide A lot of beef up front there for him. He's just an absolute mountain of a man, all 6'4", 342 of them. Cat-like quickness. Traded back up into the first round, as you mentioned, the Baker kid out of Georgia for corner depth. So when you look past the Daniel Jones pick, the rest of the draft really kind of plays out for him.
I agree with you, certain degree, but I can't go over Daniel Jones. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be harsh. I gotta give it a D+. I'm sorry. Dwayne Haskins is there. He was more NFL ready than Daniel Jones. If you compare the numbers and 50 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, edge over Dwayne Haskins. Daniel Jones, 40-something touchdowns to 23 interceptions, or 27, whatever, in his career, or something like that. You bigger competition, 13-1. Bigger competition is 7-17. It's 5,000 passing yards, 3,000 something passing yards, wherever the stat was. I mean, it had to do with because the relationship with the Mannies, and he went to the Manning camp and stuff like that. I get it. But if you're going to take somebody with a 6th overall pick, you need a pass rusher. And I'm not knocking on the kid from in the 3rd round, but you had Josh Allen, Kentucky linebacker / defensive end, who was there. You also had Ed Oliver sitting on your lap. You could have traded up 3 spots and got Quentin Williams. I mean, there was legit pass rushers there if you want to go to the quarterback route with the first pick. Then you could jump back down to the 17th pick and grab Daniel Jones. The word was the Washington Redskins was targeting at Daniel Jones, and they said the Giants feel not Daniel Jones, but Dwayne Haskins. And the New York Giants felt like he wasn't going to be there. Yes, he was. He would have been there with the 17th pick overall with your 2nd pick, because Dwayne Haskins fell into the Redskins' lap. So the only thing I'm knocking on is Daniel Jones, and you could have took a pass rusher with the 6th pick overall or with the 17th pick overall, because there were still good pass rushers. Montana Sweat was still there. The cornerback they do need. I agree with that pick, but Daniel Jones, because of Daniel Jones, I have to give that a D+. I mean, if that's your guy, that's your guy. But I just don't see that Daniel Jones is going to be a successor of Eli Manning. I rather would drafted Dwayne Haskins, who grew up to be a Giants fan and all this other stuff, and you passed up on him. That could have potentially bite you for years to come. So Dave Gettleman's job could be in jeopardy because of that. We'll just have to see going forward.
I'm being interested when the Redskins and Giants play each other.
Right, I can't wait to see that matchup. All right, the Philadelphia Eagles with the 1st pick overall, Andre Dillard, offensive tackle of Washington State, your favorite player you was raving about. Miles Sanders, running back out of Penn State with the 2nd round pick. JJ, I can't say his middle name, Whiteside, his last name, wide receiver from Stanford. Schaefer Miller, defensive end, Penn State. And with the last pick of the 5th round, Clayton Thorson, quarterback out Northwestern, and you gave them a C.
Oh, with only 5 picks, it's kind of hard to give him too much better than that. I do like that Dillard pick out of Washington State. He gained over 100 pounds. I think he gained like 120 pounds between his freshman and senior years there. Dude's a workout warrior. Very strict and regimented in his diet and nutrition. Made it a point to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to have protein shakes.
Yeah, they was saying something about that.
So yeah, he's committed. He's diligent. So, but again, with 5 picks and a number 1 pick on the offensive tackle there, can't really give him too much more than a C at the moment. We'll see how this plays out in the years to come. But they similar angle to the Cowboys. They just kind of drafted not to lose.
Well, I gave him a B-. I felt like if they would have gotten the running back Josh Jacobs to go with Howard, That could have been a nasty 1-2 punch right there. Then traded back up in the first round and grabbed Andre Dillard, maybe, and the offensive tackle from Florida. He was still there in the second round, and he fell really far. He was projected to go to the first round, and receiver add more depth, and same thing with defensive end. And the quarterback just kind of back up Carson Wentz. I was a big fan of him and watching Northwestern games. He came out a traditional NFL type of offense, so he's kind of very familiar with that. But Andre Dillard, I mean, you can't knock on it. I mean, he's like a replacement to Jason Peters, who's on his last legs as an offensive tackle, and potentially he could retire after this season, or the Eagles could cut him due to cap space and all that. So overall, I gave him a B minus. I would have gave him a higher grade if they would have drafted Josh Jacobs to go with that 1-2 punch with Halbert, who they traded for in the offseason. So I gave the Eagles a B minus. Last but not least, the team in the NFC East, the Washington Redskins. First round pick, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State. The second first round pick they traded back in, Montez Sweat, defensive end out of Mississippi State. Third round pick, wide receiver Tarek McLaurin, Ohio State. Fourth round pick, Bryce Love, running back out of Stanford. Fourth round pick, Wes Martin, offensive guard, Indiana. Fifth round pick, Pierce Barsher, Alabama, offensive guard. How do you say his name? Fifth round pick, Cole Hobocon, outside linebacker, North Carolina. Sixth round pick, Kelvin Harmon, wide receiver, North Carolina State. Seventh round pick, Jimmy Moreland, cornerback, James Madison. They produce a lot of players. Jordan Bradford, defensive end, Oklahoma State, and you gave them an A.
Yeah, they weren't going to get Kyler Murray, but they were going to get Haskins or Jones or Locke at that number 14, 15 pick, wherever they was at there. But what really boosts us up to an A for me is, Montez Sweat. That guy's just going to be.
That's a steal.
I mean, next 5 to 7 years, look out for him and keep it. You'll hear plenty of his name out of the nation's capital, that's for sure. Then I like the fourth round pick of Bryce Love. I know he's coming from ACL, and the senior season wasn't as productive, but his sophomore and junior campaigns were very Heisman-esque, and if he can just get back to any kind of form of that at the pro level, they really nailed it with those 3 picks alone.
I gave him an A minus. Dwayne Haskins fell down to their lap. He's a local kid, grew up around there, and he really has a chip on his shoulders, like we was saying earlier. We can't wait till the Giants and Redskins matchup 2 times this year.
They had to be thrilled that the Dolphins took Wilkins at number 13 there too, because they hadn't traded for Rosen yet. The Dolphins hadn't.
No.
And they were needing a quarterback after losing Tannehill to the Titans, so they just had to be delirious when they did when the Dolphins passed on them.
I actually give props to the owner for not jumping the gun in the quarterback this time. He just waited and let the draft come to him, and Dwayne Haskins fell down. I mean, projected to go in the top 10, and on top of that, you come back in the first round and get Montez Sweat, defensive end out of Mississippi State. There was some flags on him due to his heart condition, whatever, and the reports came out. It was not as serious as people thought. But the kid who ran 4.41 at the combine just tore it up. 6'4". I mean, this dude's wingspan, his production speaks for himself. You got Ryan Kerrigan, who needs help on the other side. Line him up with Montez Sweat. Are you kidding me? That is just a nightmare for defensive ends have to come out. And Bryce Love, he has some injury issues at Stanford his senior season. So if he can stay healthy, that will be 1-2 punch with him. And the Geis kid, that running back from LSU who was injured last year, he needs to stay healthy. They did dress the offensive line, especially at the guard position. If they can work hard and whatever, they could be potential starters, and rest of it was just for needs maybe special teams, but overall, I give them an A minus because they waited patiently for Dwayne Haskins and getting where Jay Gruden, he'll have to ease them in to the playbook where because they traded for Case Keenum and you still have Colt McCoy as well, so he'll probably be a backup just learning the offense, and that's fine. I'd rather him to learn the offense instead of be rushed in, but I give him an A minus and all that. So kudos to the Washington Redskins. And I can't wait to the Giants and the Redskins matchup this upcoming season. And that will do it for the AFC and NFC East draft recap. Normally we'll do our social media where you can follow us at and all that, but we just want to take the time and mourn the loss of Washburn University's defensive back Dwayne Simons, and our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family, who was recently tragically killed over nonsense a few weeks back during the NFL draft weekend. They was out celebrating with his teammate and a good friend, Corey Valentine. Prayers to speedy recovery. His injuries wasn't that serious. Good thing it wasn't. It could have affected his NFL career. And also prayers and sent out to Nipsey Hussle and his family, who we tragically lost a month ago due to nonsense, gun violence and all that. This has to stop. Too many innocent people are getting killed over nonsense, especially the younger generation and their babies. And if we can prevent more gun violence, especially to the youth, and we can make a difference in the community, and this has to stop. This gun violence has to stop. Too many young people are dying over nonsense, and prayers sent out to families of Dwayne Simmons, who could have potentially joined his teammate Corey Valentine in the NFL draft and possibly get drafted. He had a bright future. He was a great player, and his life was lost due to nonsense. And I want to get your words on that.
Yeah, I just think everything you say there happens far too often, and glad you mentioned Nipsey Hussle there. Hopefully he has enough of. Hopefully he got enough footage or production done for that documentary on the doctor that was
Dr. Sebi.
Dr. Sebi, who had the cure for AIDS, who was murdered in 1985, 86, right around then. He was trying to shoot a documentary on that. So hopefully that project was far enough along that somebody who has the know-how can finish the project for us, so we can all see what he was working on there.
He had not only he had impact on the music, he had impact on the community and give it back to the people and all that. And he inspired people as well, not just the California area and across the United States, but across the world, as everybody had a memorial for him in every place of the United States as well as the world. So rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle, and rest in peace to Dwayne Simmons, who was tragically lost over nonsense gun violence, and his family, especially his parent, deserves justice. So if there's any way you can give back to his family, whatever, just say something, step up, and just know that his family deserves justice. Like the good book says, the parents is not supposed to bury the kids are supposed to bury the parents. And unfortunately, at a young age, the parents is going to have to bury their loved one due to a senseless act of gun violence. So our prayers go out to him and his family of Dwayne Simmons. I'm Michael Riley.
I'm Luke Hartnett.
We're going to take a moment of silence to remember Dwayne Simmons, who was tragically lost.